Hello and welcome to Cyberside Chats. My name is Sherry Davidoff. I'm the founder of LMG Security.
And I'm Tom Poole. I'm the head of penetration testing here at LMG.
So Tom, thank you for being a guest on our show this week. Today we're going to talk about death, or really our digital afterlife. And this came up because you actually had an experience recently. You had to help out a friend, right? You want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so I have a friend whose husband a few weeks ago unexpectedly passed away. It was a really sad situation. And I reached out to her and said, hey, if you need anything, feel free to reach out. And she actually reached out to me last week and said, hey, the spreadsheet that my husband used for the last 8 years to track all of our bills has a password on it, and she didn't have access to the password. And so she wanted to know if I could help. And
that's so hard when people pass away, because, and we see it all the time, because of course you're already going through this trauma, you're already grieving, and you have to make sure bills get paid, the lights stay on, the door locks are still working properly, and your loved ones may be locked out of important accounts. So it sounds like she was very stressed on top of grieving.
Exactly. And so she sent me the spreadsheet, and I was able to recover the password.
Yeah, you put it in our password cracking rig.
Yeah, I put it in our password cracking rig. It actually cracked very quickly because it was a password that was guessable.
Thank goodness.
But thank goodness. But like if he had chosen a really long, complex password, she might not have ever been able to access that data again.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how many passwords do I have that would be totally not crackable? And there's probably many of you out there too that are really taking a lot of care in your lives to make sure you're secure. And the problem is that in death, that can create some major issues for your loved ones.
Exactly. And yeah, and so that's what we're talking about today. What do you do in order to prepare to die?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's start by talking about what are the kinds of things that we leave behind that we might need to make sure people have access to. And the one that surprised me the most, that made me go like, oh my gosh, was door locks and smart home devices and things like that, right?
Light bulbs.
Light bulbs. Oh, you're doing a hacking project on light bulbs right now, aren't you? Okay, that'll be another episode. Also, of course, things like bills, maybe access to bank accounts, because your loved ones will need to make sure, hey, are things going to go overdrawn? What if things get changed with your payroll? Will the mortgage still get paid? Where are we at with things? So stuff like that, they definitely need access to. What else?
So other things like your phone, pictures, playlists, music, all the things that maybe are kind of, everything's encrypted now, right? Your phone's encrypted, your laptop's encrypted, and being able to access those things as well that, are a digital memorial of you might not only be accessible to your loved ones if you don't give them access.
Right, and that's a personal decision. Do you want people to have access to photos or not? But something that's a less personal decision is, hey, do you have MFA on your device that's important to get into your accounts? So even if your wish is to not have people going through all your photos, you may want to have a digital executor that you tell that, but they may need access to multi-factor authentication. And even if in your will or your succession plans, you're planning for someone to take over your bank account, or you've left a legacy contact with Apple, and we'll get to that in a little bit, it can take time for those account transitions to happen. And in the meantime, your loved ones may need rapid access in order to ensure there's not a problem in the short term. So, okay, now that we've gone through some of the things that we need to be thinking about, let's go into how we prepare. And I think the number one thing that we need to consider is password escrow, which of course is a fancy way of saying, like, how do people have access to your passwords after you die?
Exactly.
And I feel dirty saying that because, I don't want anybody to have access to my passwords.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not going to write them down.
What if you said something mean and nasty in the password?
Oh, well, don't do that, you guys. But, I mean, the easiest way is to use a password manager. And show of hands, how many of you have a password manager? Wow, that's a huge percentage of our audience, because a lot of you are nerds like us. Which is great, because password managers give you a lot of options for password escrow. I know we were looking at 1Password.
Yeah,
is that right?
1Password is pretty cool, because they actually, when you set it up, it creates you this emergency kit.
I like how they call it that.
So that if you die or become incapacitated, that you can give someone else access to be able to recover access to your password manager.
Yeah. Well, I like that you mentioned incapacitated. This isn't just if you die, you guys. Let's imagine you get hit by a bus, you're in the hospital for like a few weeks or a month. You might still need people to be taking care of your life. So that's what things like 1Password's emergency kit are for. And 1Password is not the only one. They're just an example that we're using. Pretty much any password manager these days has some kind of method of exporting recovery keys so that if you forget your password, you can still get in. And so a simple way to make sure that your loved ones can get access to all of your passwords is just to export your recovery keys. You can put them on a USB drive in a safe deposit box. You could print it out in some cases. I believe 1Password has a QR code, I think, that can help you recover.
Yeah. Put it in a fireproof box at the house where it's under your lock and key.
Burn it to a DVD. That's old school. But I actually know people who have done that. So I know for 1Password, and again, this will, most of the other password managers have similar recovery options. In order for your loved ones to get into your accounts, they will need to provide a sign-in address, your email address, your secret key, that's where that export comes in, the account password, so you need to include that, and then a setup code, which is a QR code that makes it easy to sign on new devices. And again, just giving someone access to your phone actually can rapidly allow them to get in, potentially, to your password manager or other things, or at least make it a little bit easier so they don't have to worry about, a new untrusted device or things like that. But absent that, make sure that you put all your passwords in one place and that you are designating an emergency contact or two.
Right. Well, and actually even probably the PIN number, like say you're an iPhone user, the PIN number to your phone, making that known, because if you're using Face ID, you can't just swap out the face, because if you do that, it'll wipe out all trust with all the applications.
Right.
So, but often if you fail Face ID, you can still put in the PIN number and gain access with that previous trust relationship.
Right. Well, to back up a second, you had mentioned the importance of doing a digital asset inventory.
Absolutely. That's kind of step one of this whole process is like, what do you have out there? What accounts do you have? What digital assets do you have? What devices do you have on your
Don't
network?
forget Alexa or, your smart home devices.
Right. I mean, if you look at many, people's password managers, they may have 1,000 different passwords in their password manager. I know.
And 1,000 more that are missing.
Probably. And so, knowing what's important and knowing what you've got, and then deciding what are you going to do with each type of account.
Yeah. Good thing to do over a long weekend, just thinking about it. Okay, so you mentioned having the PIN for a device. I think that's really critical because your phone is just a centerpiece for many people's lives, digital lives.
Right.
And
it's your multi-factor authentication. Yeah. It is the physical thing that you've got that is in addition to knowing like a username and password.
So why might we want people to have access to our devices? We talked a little bit about multi-factor authentication. I mean, that's huge right there because it's not enough to leave people all your passwords. These days, we've put a lot of work into making sure we have multi-factor authentication, and that can be a huge stumbling block.
Yeah, exactly. As well as, like I said, photos, those memories.
Yeah.
When you are gone, people are going to want to remember you.
Oh, you're such a softie.
I
mean, some people are like, don't ever look at my photos. But yeah, no, it's true. And you may want your loved ones to have access to important photos or even just a particular album. So think about it. Perhaps on a more practical note, your email. Most people have easy email access on their phones. And that's huge for making sure people are aware you've passed away, for getting information if a bill is overdue or what needs to be taken care of.
Even knowing who you communicate with. I mean, there may be people that you only communicate with using your phone, and they may not ever know that you've passed on.
Yeah, so if you want people to be aware that you've passed away, think about the importance of your phone in that context. Yeah. Changing your voicemail or something like that so that people know. That's something we should add to our checklist. We're coming out with a little checklist, by the way, after this is released. So check it out. We'll make sure there's a link in the show notes to our digital afterlife checklist, how you can prepare. Okay, so securing devices. Okay, solutions for this. Do you want to talk a little bit about Apple?
Yeah, so different providers of hardware have different solutions to this problem. Apple in particular has something called the Apple Legacy Contact, where basically, as of one of the more recent iOS versions, you can go in and set up someone that you trust to have access that if you pass on, you can provide, like a death certificate and so forth to Apple, and they will then grant you access for at least a limited period of time to things like the keychain where passwords are stored, and subscriptions and music and all the things that your phone has got access to through Apple, and so including the device itself.
Yeah, so make sure you do that with whoever your provider is. And then I actually just finished my will. This is very timely. And in my will, I have the executor of my will, and then I have my digital executor, essentially. So I have notes for the person that's going to be taking care of all my digital accounts and devices and things like that. And frankly, those are not the same person. The person who's going to actually execute your will may not be the tech person that you trust to take care of, of accessing all your devices. Or it might just be a different person for other reasons as well.
Right.
So think about who you want to be your digital executor.
Well, and what do you want to do? Like, I actually had a coworker who passed away several years ago, and they knew they're dying, and so they had decided ahead of time that they wanted all of their presence online to be deleted when they died.
Wow.
And so, you can choose to memorialize.
Oh, I know it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Or you can choose to disappear.
Yeah.
And this person didn't want to be, leave a footprint online after they passed on.
Right.
And it's an important decision to make, because if you don't make that decision, you may look like you are in existence forever.
Well, I'm sure we all know someone who we found out has passed away, but their Facebook account is still on and active for now. And the problem, there's a couple problems with this if you don't actually give somebody access to your social media or express your wishes. Number one, it can be very difficult to deal with Facebook if you're not authorized to do anything with someone's account. Your loved ones could be locked out, and maybe your last post is something really silly. Who knows? You might not want to be that way forever. Also, accounts can get hacked, especially if you're deceased. Eventually, your passwords might get stolen, and nobody can come in and fix that unless you designate that ahead of time.
Well, and there's a lot of trust relationships set up there from, you have a Facebook account with hundreds or thousands of friends that then if that gets hacked after you're gone, they could, someone could try to leverage that
Mary's
trust.
hacked account is active again, and it's an ongoing issue, and you don't want everyone to unfriend you
Right.
after you pass away. That would be terrible. So, you probably don't want it to be unmanaged forever. We also see people with LinkedIn accounts forever after they've passed away as well. And people may not realize that you've passed on, and maybe you want that. But those companies will probably not keep inactive accounts around forever either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think this is an interesting topic as the web evolves and lives on forever.
Yeah.
That this is how it's kind of like when you create data, how do you get rid of data? Like it's the same thing, not just with with a data breach, but with longevity of
Grandma's Facebook account got hacked again. Somebody needs to go clean it up. Yeah, interesting. And there'll be inheriting of social media accounts. Okay, wow. This is going to be that's an issue for future us. Okay, so we talked about social media. Let's wrap up by talking a little bit about your organization. Because of course at work, we also still have to plan for death, or again, not just death, but if somebody is out for an extended period of time, maybe they're in the hospital unexpectedly, maybe let's think of the happy scenario, they're on vacation for a month. How about that? It doesn't all have to be bad. What do? You don't want to rely on searching somebody's desk for sticky notes with their passwords.
Under the keyboard.
Keyboard. Well, not in this post-COVID world, you'd have to go to their house and look under the keyboard. We don't want to do that.
That's a good point.
But password escrow can help, but a lot of times, surprisingly, some password managers, even if you're an administrator, will not allow you to actually see the passwords for an employee that is not there anymore or has been incapacitated or things like that. So make sure you have a password escrow plan, either that important passwords are shared within your system or maybe they're printed and put in a safe deposit box, whatever it is, that there's some method for you to get easy access at work, not just at home after someone has passed away or is just no longer there.
Yeah, multi-user access.
Yes, multi-user access. Have a backup plan. So anything else you want to add, Tom?
No, I think that pretty much covers most of it. Like I said, I think that, half the battle is thinking about this and creating a plan. just like, you want to create a plan for, a will. I think, in this new world, adding that digital
Digital will.
a digital will,
Yeah.
I think is important that not a lot of people are talking about yet.
Yeah.
And we're all aging.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, right now. Okay, well, let's go over our takeaways. Number 1, Tom.
Number 1, take a digital inventory of your assets, right? Make sure that you know what it is that you've got out there.
Yeah. Number 2, implement emergency access, the emergency access features in your password managers so that after you have everything in one place, you're giving somebody access to that.
Number 3, establish a digital executor.
I think that's so important.
Someone to take care of your digital life after you're gone.
Yep. Prepare a recovery for your critical devices. Think about leaving pins or recovery keys so that people can get into your phone or your laptop without it being a huge problem.
Right. And then number 5, create a plan for your online presence. What do you want to do? How do you want to be remembered? Or do you want to be remembered?
Ooh, I like that. And finally, at work, make sure you're developing internal organizational policies for what happens if someone dies or is incapacitated. How do you maintain that continuity? Tom, I know you wanted to dedicate this episode to someone. You want to talk about that?
That's hard. So, just a couple weeks ago, a friend from Kansas City, Wayne Crowder, passed away. I didn't know him that well. Super healthy guy in security. Every time I went to Kansas City, from the, I help in Des Moines, Iowa, sometimes with a group called SecDSM. When we would go down there, SecKC was kind of our big brother organization to us. And Wayne was always there, right? Great guy to talk to. Mm-hmm. And, he's in security, and he just recently passed away. And I'm sure, his family might be dealing with some of these kinds of issues now. And it's just like, dedicate it to Wayne. He's a good guy.
I'm sure he's cheering on this episode, too. I bet he would really appreciate it. Well, Wayne is still on LinkedIn. And what's his first and last name again?
Wayne Crowder.
Wayne Crowder. Check him out, Kansas City area. And feel free to leave a little nice note for Wayne in memoriam. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have a digital afterlife checklist out there. Check out the show notes for a link to that. And we'll see you next week for Cyberside Chats. Please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.